My name is Hamisi Turan. I'm the Dean of Students. I also am the head of counseling. A little bit about tonight in our counselors. We have all four of our grade 10 through 12 counselors, Mr. Holman, Mr. Seaman, Ms. Cranston, who just replaced Ms. O'Hara, and Mr. Fluharty will all be presenting tonight. Additionally, about our staff, Ms. Walsh is our freshman counselor. Ms. Bozine, who you often receive emails from, is our counseling secretary, and myself. Our goals for tonight is really just to seek a unified effort. Our goal is to have everyone on the same page, our student, parents, and counselors all working together collaboratively to come up with a common plan. We also will review Naviance for our students. We will talk about our counseling website, which has additional resources. And we will have our post-secondary education plan and just a guide to kind of help you navigate through all the systems. So without further ado, we will start with Mr. Seaman.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you tonight. My name is Bill Seaman. This is my 15th year as a high school counselor. It's my 8th year as a school counselor at Haddonfield Memorial High School. As are the other counselors, I greatly look forward to working with your sons and daughters on the post-secondary planning process. My part of the presentation is going to place focus on the Naviance student website, which is an extensive resource for college and career planning. Now, the Naviance website can be accessed through the high school website, and students will log in using a username, which is an email address, as well as a password. Now, I thought the best way to talk about the Naviance website would be actually to explore it together. So I'm going to move on to the high school website. And first, I'll point out a few things here, and then we'll move on to the Naviance login screen and into the Naviance program. So I'm clicking on the counseling tab. And in the counseling website, I'll click on the students tab and just want to point out a few things that are on the 11th grade link there. On the left side there's a link to an 11th grade monthly planner, which will list tasks that students can complete at various points in the junior year. There's an 11th grade Naviance checklist, which involves a number of tasks that they'll complete in Naviance, which we'll look at together in a little bit. It also has a link for the post-secondary planning guide, which Mr. Holman will highlight later in the presentation. Going back to the Students tab, I'm going to move on to the link for NCAA, where you can find information about the NCAA Eligibility Center, which is an organization that determines eligibility for college athletics. Down towards the bottom, there's a link for the NCAA website, which is where a student can create an account, and they can review information about eligibility in terms of core coursework, GPA, and test scores. Let's move on to Naviance now. Here's the link for Naviance. And this will take us to a link that will lead us to the login screen, where I can type in the zip code. That will bring us to Haddonfield Memorial High School's login screen. And click Students. And this is where a student would log in. Now, students have been provided with their login information, but we understand that they might forget it from time to time, so we suggest they try to keep it in a safe place. But if they need to be reset at any point, we can always help with that. So they should just reach out to their counselor. So let's pretend that I logged in and I successfully made it into my Naviance account. I set up an account with my name in it so we can explore it freely tonight. So this is the home screen. And if we follow it down towards the bottom, just want to point towards a list of resources and links that are provided there. There are links for the testing websites, ACT and SAT. There are financial aid websites, the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, the state financial aid website, Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, their scholarship websites, various websites that students might want to know are there. Move back to the home screen. On the left, there are various Twitter handles for accounts that students might be interested in following. Okay. If we follow along the top, we have some tabs. There are also some quick links here on the home page. So some of the ones that students are going to use very often are going to be the I'm thinking about link. Seniors will use the I'm applying to link. Let's move into the colleges tab. We'll go to the home screen. And if I scroll down a little bit, we'll see the part that seniors will use when they're working through applications, requesting recommendations, and transcripts. On the left side, we have some scholarship information. I click on scholarship list, and then I click on local and regional scholarships. We'll see a number of scholarships that our department has become aware of, and we list here for students to take a look at. Down towards the bottom, we have a section for college visits. Now at this time, it won't have any schools listed because these take place in the fall. But these are great opportunities where college representatives will either visit our campus or under the current pandemic circumstances, holds virtual events with our students where it's only our students and they get to interact and ask questions and hear presentations from the college representatives. Moving back to the college home screen. On the left side, we'll see a handful of research tools where students can look up colleges that meet certain criteria. We'll take a look at one right now. Here's the advanced college search. So if I follow along the top, we'll see various criteria that students can use to do a search to narrow down a list based on these criteria. You have school type, which has various ways they can narrow things down, location, so they can narrow it down by region or by states. The student section would allow them to narrow it down by size, number of students. The admissions tab would allow them to narrow it down by how competitive the admissions is. Students look up athletics. They're looking for a certain sport at a certain division. And a very popular way to search for schools would be by a college major. They can enter the name of the major. We narrow down by cost, as well as various special programs. Now, as the student's completing a search, they may know what they're looking for in some areas, but not other areas. So we encourage them to focus on the areas that they feel like are important to them. And you can always do multiple searches. You can always do a search one way and then change it to either try to expand or narrow down the list. So at the end, the student would click View Matches, and then the list of schools would come up. From that point, they could take a look and look at schools that they want to learn more about. And from there, if they're interested in a school, they can move that school over into that Thinking About section to save a list that they can look at later on, and they can continually build it and have it there to go back to over time. Let's take a look at the I'm Thinking About list. So let's say I had done some research and I found some schools that I liked. I have a wide variety of here. We have a county college. We have several state colleges. We have an Ivy League school. We have a vocational school. If somebody's interested in becoming a chef or a pastry chef at Culinary Institute. If I want to go from there and I want to take a look further at a school, let's say the College of New Jersey. I click on the school. It pulls me to a page where there's plenty of additional information within the Naviance website. There are tabs all across the top, all across the bottom, lots of information. right underneath the school name, you can find the link to the school's website, which we highly recommend students take a look at. Naviance has excellent information. I want to look at the programs that a school has. I can take a look at all the areas of study they have. However, within the school's website, if I went to the TCNJ website, it would have much more detailed information about the programs, departments, majors, requirements, and coursework and program philosophy. A very helpful part of the Naviance school page is the admissions section right here. So as I pull the screen down, we're now looking at what we call a scattergram. All of the marks on the screen represent Haddonfield students who've applied to this school. Now, a student wouldn't see the applicants' names, but they can see on the left what their GPA was, and it uses our GPA scale, so there's no need to convert to a 4.0 as the 100-point scale there. And on the bottom, you can see test scores, SAT scores. Can be changed to ACT if a student took the ACT. And this is a really helpful tool because the student can visualize, where they fit based on these two factors. Now, the counselors also realize these are only two factors of many. It does not include the application, recommendations, resume, any other number of factors that might go into the admissions process. However, it can be a very helpful tool when a student is trying to take a look at the range of schools that they're looking to apply to. Okay, so I think that wraps up the colleges tab. Let's take a quick look at the careers tab, and that's also going to lead into Mr. Fluharty's presentation because he'll be discussing career planning as well. So on the left side, there are some ways to explore careers. If I know a career that I'm looking for, I can type it in. And from there, if I click on the career, it'll have all kinds of information about tasks that you have to complete, type of education that you need, wages. It'll take you to potential majors, and also similar careers that you might also find interesting if you were looking for that career. Some others that are similar might be in your ballpark as well. If I move down towards the bottom of the careers tab, there's a few assessments. The one that we recommend that juniors do especially is the Career Interest Profiler. Okay. The student clicks on the Career Interest Profiler. It's going to take them to a series of questions. It should only take a student about 15 or 20 minutes, although there are a large number of questions. They'll mark whether they like, dislike, or feel neutral about a variety of tasks. And at the end, it's going to match their results with career themes that are based on the Holland codes. If anybody can remember the Strong Interest Inventory, that was based on the Holland codes. So this is a new version for Naviance. So they'll be matched up with Holland codes. And then if they click further into the results, they'll get a list of careers that match up with those Holland codes. And from there, the students can take a look at the careers and learn about that information that I mentioned a few moments ago. And it can help in their self-exploration in terms of trying to match their interests and skills and talents with potential career fields. Well, that rounds out my presentation. Again, it's a pleasure being with you. And Mr. Fluharty will be up next to talk a little bit more about careers.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephen Fluharty, and I've been a counselor. I hadn't been for about 5 years. Many of you probably remember me when I was a freshman counselor, and we worked together to help your child transition to high school. And now tonight we're going to be talking about how to support your child while they're transitioning from high school to the real world. I like to think of it as a circle of life in a way. My PowerPoint will cover a little bit about how to pick a college major and discovering career opportunities. In my experience at the council, I know it's a pressing question for a student to really think about what I was majoring in, what career path I should be thinking about. I could create some sense of anxiety and concern. I totally get that. And in my experience, I find that having conversation with many different people could be quite powerful. Students should be talking with their parents, their teacher, their counselor, calling a mission route to gather information, to learn more about opportunities and themselves. In my conversation with the council, I'd like to ask open-ended questions that allow students to really think about themselves. My question could range from helping students to focus on strengths, interests, values, while reviewing their academic performances. My question can range from how they're doing, how they're doing with clubs, sports, classes, and then conversation tend to get a little bit deeper into what classes they really enjoy and why. You have to find out why they enjoy those specific classes, and that can help to pinpoint their skills and talents that they have. And those skills that can be very helpful with their career planning. When you ask questions why students really enjoy those classes, it could be because they like to solve math problems, computer coding, working in labs, reading writing critically, arguing, debating in classes, and collaborating with other people. Those are the skills that they want to build on to help with their career. Also, I had a view with very fortunate to have a very comprehensive curriculum in every subject that allows our students to pick more classes in subjects that they're very passionate about, especially for the senior that they could take more math, English, science, world language, technology, social science, and fine performing arts that help to grow. That's what they should be thinking about. Also, aside from having conversations, there are career assessments in areas that could be very powerful and a good use of resource. Students could go in areas anytime they want, and there are 3 different career assessments: career interest profile, career classroom finder, and long-term nation. They are available anytime in areas, and that's a really good way for students to take advantage of. And when students complete these career assessments, they can request an appointment with their counselor, and we are always available to meet with the student to go over these career results and help to interpret it for them. That's a really good opportunity for them to do that. And remember, I always say to students, but when the professional, nothing else, it's actually cool. Also, developing flexible educational plan. That could be very helpful for the senior that could take 9 different classes they want to take to get their feet wet in different areas, because many of our students are done with their graduation requirements by their senior, which opens a lot of flexibility into classes they want to take for next year. And many colleges do have open option, undeclared major plans that allow freshmen to take a couple classes in different areas as well. That can help us to really think about, for students to really think about themselves. You know, students can always consult with us and be available to listen and support our students. I'm going to be highlighting a couple of department activities for 11th grade and next year, senior. Beginning with our college fair. How to get a college fair. It's about 75 years old, and we've been having it for 75 years. And we get about 18 different college admission routes coming to Haddonfield, and they're using having the gym, library, and cafeteria. It's a great opportunity for families to meet with admission rep and get their question answered. Plus, the admission reps give out really cool information at the college fair, kind of like this. That can help. I'm kind of becoming a collector myself too. And unfortunately, this year, we couldn't have it due to COVID. We are hoping that we'll be able to open in October of 2021. We have a wait and see. But there is another option for students to connect with college reps. We have college admission reps coming to Haddonfield between September through December. These college admission reps come to Haddonfield, meet with students in small group settings. The admission rep tend to give an overview of the college, picture the campus, academic programs, campus life, sports, clubs, studying abroad, internship opportunities, financial aid, and admission requirements that they get a lot of information. Students are afforded the opportunity to ask more questions to the college admission rep to get more information. This year, due to COVID, we were able to operate online through Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom platform. It went very well. I highly recommend students to do that in the fall, their senior, between September through December. Students could sign up for their college rep visits through Naviance. There'll be more information about that coming up. PSATs all around June took the PSAT back in October of 2020 and they are available online through College Board website that students create their own account. They could see their PSAT results. And they should be thinking about signing up for SAT soon. But if they want tax prep, the College Board offers free tax prep. It's called Khan Academy. That's available through College Board website. So definitely check that out. Korean expert profile, just like I was talking about in my other PowerPoint. Students receive information through their school email about the Korean experts profile. It is available anytime to take it in advance. We're going to be sending out another email about this with direction to students to complete the Korean experts profile. We're going to send out another email about this week. So encourage the students to take advantage of that. Student parent student night. Well, here we are in the virtual online world. That information for tonight. Naviance, review and college search. All the counselors are meeting with students with junior one-to-one individually to review Naviance and where they are in the college search process, and to support our students with the planning process. We provide a tutorial on Naviance, how they could search for college profile, create college and thinking about that. And there are 2 different college search that they can complete in Naviance. Advanced college search and supervised. All two college instructions are incredible. They can provide them comprehensive college notes based on student preferences for type of school, location, combination, major, sports, and campus life that can help generate a college note. We in the council bring over that with all the students. You should be looking at that with your student to go over that information. And the next one, scheduling conference. That's my favorite time of the year. And really love this part of my job. We get to meet with all the families individually to review the student for your learning plan. Look at right here. Making sure they're on track with graduation requirements, taxing, extracurricular activities, summer programs, and going to classes that they want to take for their senior. And we try to make sure they are on track with college admission requirements. And we also talk about college admission as well during the course selection conferences. So I'm really looking forward to the next one is senior information sheet and resume. I know all the students know that how important it is to update their resume. It is available in Navia. They really should update their resume because that's giving very valuable information for teachers to help with learning recognition, and that information can be valuable for their college application as well. Please encourage your students to update their resume in Navia. It's extremely valuable. And they'll be completing senior information sheet. It's kind of like a broad sheet highlighting the student's strength, talent, and a little bit more insightful questions for students to answer. We use all the information with the senior information sheet to help us in teaching with their learning recognition. That will be available probably by April and May that they should complete the senior information sheet. Also, we have the option for parents to complete a broad sheet for their students as well. That will be available in April 9 through Navia. We usually communicate about this through email. So keep an eye for information about those. Thank you, and look forward to working with all of you soon.
School costs $40,000 and your EFC is $20,000.
Hi, I'm Jeff Holman, and I also would like to welcome you to this evening's Junior Parent and Student Night. I will be picking up where Mr. Fluharty left off. He has taken you through the major activities of the junior year. I will start with the summer after the junior year and highlight some of our suggestions for that summer as well as for the senior year itself. I would mention that my remarks are to a large extent a condensed version of the post-secondary education planning guide, which is a resource that the counseling department has prepared for juniors and their parents. This guide is available in the 11th grade section of the HMHS Counseling Department website. Now moving to the summer of 2021. Rising seniors have numerous options that they can spend their summer doing that will strengthen them as college applicants. One use of the summer could be showing one's maturity, sense of responsibility, and work ethic by holding a summer job. A summer job may be especially valuable if that job relates to a student's academic interests. For example, suppose that I intend to major in business once I reach college. A job in the business world would certainly give me valuable experience. Likewise, if engineering is my potential future major, working at the local engineering firm in the summer would likewise give me a solid foundation. If education is my passion, if I intend to pursue a career in that field, working as a camp counselor, for example, in the summer, would give me experience in interacting with younger children. Another very valuable use of the summer would be involvement in community service. Sometimes the school year is so busy that finding time to be involved in service is difficult, but the summer may present some students, at least, with more opportunity to engage in service activities. Again, service could be especially valuable if it relates to a student's academic interest. For example, suppose that I intend to be a science major, perhaps I would volunteer at the Franklin Institute or a local hospital. Suppose that history is my passion, I may volunteer at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, or I may wish to volunteer at the Historical Society of Haddonfield. If I love animals, I may wish to volunteer at the Philadelphia Zoo or perhaps a local animal shelter. Those students who have a special talent can stand apart from other students in the application process. Many students are strong academically, but may lack the special talents. Therefore, if I can enhance my athletic or musical talents by attending a summer camp, that experience can make me even more desirable as a potential member of a college's sports team or musical groups. Sometimes visiting colleges in the school year would be ideal because you get to see, as a visitor, actual classes in session. You get a sense of what the college is like during the school year, but the reality of family schedules sometimes limits the availability of time to visit schools during the school year. Therefore, college visits may often happen in the summer. We recommend that if a student and parents visit a college in the summer, to contact the admission office of that school first for several purposes. Number one is there may be special activities available that a visiting family could participate in, but also colleges may, to some extent, consider a student's level of demonstrated interest in making admissions decisions. If a college knows that a student cares enough to visit the campus, that may help the student be accepted by that school. During the visitation, we would recommend that the student take notes and take pictures of any features of college life that stand out to that student. Often students are asked in a college essay to indicate why the student is applying to that particular school. If a student took good notes during the visitation about those features of the college that were especially impressive, that student can write a very specific and compelling essay on the topic of why is that college one that I am applying to. On the topic of essays and applications, the senior year is obviously very full of activities. It's a lot of hard work, but also a lot of fun. But because there is so much to do, those students that work on their applications and college essays before the year begins are very much appreciative of the fact that they were able to make themselves start working before life got a lot busier than it might have been in the summertime. There is, for example, an application called the Common Application, which perhaps you've heard about. This application is currently accepted by over 900 colleges. So even if a student is not sure right now what colleges the student may apply to, there's a pretty good chance that student may be applying to a common application school. Therefore, we recommend or encourage students to work on the common application during the summer. It is available then. The more that a student completes in the summer, the less there is to do, obviously, during the school year. Another effective use of summertime might be preparing for the SAT or the ACT. Again, because the school year is so busy, sometimes students may like to prepare more for these tests, but finding the time to do that may not be easy. There are currently SAT and ACT administrations in the summer, The ACT is offered in August, the ACT in July, so a student may prepare for and take those exams during the summer when perhaps life is not quite as busy. Sometimes the counselors are asked if we recommend a particular SAT prep course or tutor. Certainly, many tutors and prep courses are very reputable, and by no means do I intend to demean those options for preparation. However, at the same time, prep courses or tutors may cost a family hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So during a pandemic especially, it's hard for me to push especially hard to encourage students to take a prep class or to work with a tutor to get ready for these exams. I have found that the one student I can think of who improved the most out of all my students I've ever counseled on the SAT did not spend 1 cent on preparation. She went to the SAT website and she did all the free preparation available through that site. The College Board has a partnership with Khan Academy, and that student raised her SAT scores in both math and reading by several hundred points just because she had the self-discipline to sit down and make herself go through the free preparation rather than spend a lot of money on paying someone else to lead her through that preparation process. The final use of the summer that I might mention is very valuable would be independent reading. Sometimes even those students that take a prep class find that it's hard to raise their verbal scores, their reading and writing scores, if they had not read extensively. Our prep courses tend to benefit math more than reading. So again, reading is the best way, in my view, to improve reading scores. The more a student reads, the better skills the person develops, both in reading and in writing. In addition, students are occasionally asked in an interview or an essay to discuss a book recently read. So if the student has read some excellent literature in the summer, that could be a topic that would be discussed in an essay or an interview. Next up, I'm going to discuss during the senior year, different options a student may have in the application process. So one thing I would emphasize is that there's no one timeline that's right for everyone. For example, I've had some students have applied to colleges as early as July before their senior year, while other students might not apply until March of the senior year. Again, some students need more time to think through their choices and come up with decisions about what schools they most are attracted to. Again, it's important that students follow their own path, their own needs, and not do something just because your friends are doing things a certain way. Colleges often have more than one deadline. They may typically have one deadline in October or November. This may be called the early action or early decision deadline. They also may have a later deadline in January or February. This later deadline is often called the regular decision deadline. Now, early action and early decision 1 are similar in that they both would involve a deadline in the early part of the year, and they both would result in a student getting a decision more quickly. But one important difference between the two options would be that with the early decision option, a student is promising or committing to attend a certain school if the school admits that student. Because a student is committing, sometimes applying as an early decision candidate can increase the person's chances of being admitted because the college knows that the student has made that school his or her first choice. Early decision 2 is a later version of early decision 1. That is, in both cases, this is a binding commitment. But for those students who need more time to identify their top choice, or those students who may have applied someplace else first and got turned down, these students may have a new first choice, which they can apply to through early decision 2, which may involve a deadline sometime in January. Early action, which again may include a deadline in the first part of the year, is not binding and therefore may not have quite the same benefit in terms of showing a student's commitment, although statistically, those students who apply early action do get accepted at a somewhat higher level than those students who apply as regular decision candidates. Some early action plans place restrictions on what you can do if you apply as an early action candidate. For example, suppose I apply to school ABC through the early action option. That school may say to me, if you apply early action to us, you may not apply early to any other school, or you may not apply early to any other private school. So there are different variations, but the important point here is if you're applying early action, especially if the school is a more competitive school, there's a possibility that the school would place restrictions on what you can do in terms of early applications to other schools. You have to read the website and be aware of any special conditions that are attached to a school's early action application deadline. Two more terms I'll mention here are rolling and priority. A rolling deadline means that there's no specific deadline, but students can apply basically whenever they're ready, when all their various components have been prepared for submission. So students may, with the rolling deadline, get a response from a school as early as a week or two after they apply. Again, I think that because of the stress of waiting, sometimes that's the most stressful part of the whole application process. You apply, you devote all this time to visiting colleges and writing essays and doing applications, and then you have to wait for a decision. We believe that we recommend, I should say, that a student should consider applying to at least one or two schools as early decision or early action or rolling candidates, so the student can get at least one or two answers back from schools before the winter season in December. I think if a student knows that the student has been accepted already before the second semester starts, that removes a lot of the pressure and the stress of waiting until maybe March or April, when some students may inform a regular decision candidate of his or her status. The term priority refers to a recommended deadline, but not a hard and fast deadline. For example, if the school says that December 1st is our priority deadline, the school is saying that we recommend you apply by this date, but you don't have to. It's not the required deadline, but those students who meet the deadline have a better chance of being accepted or of getting a scholarship. So obviously, it would be in the student's best interest to meet the deadline, even though it may not be the required and final hard and fast deadline. Next, I will speak about the various factors that are involved in admissions decisions. So the different factors I will discuss here may have a varying amount of weight at different colleges. For example, bigger schools may place more emphasis on making decisions by numbers. That is, what is the student's GPA? What are the student's SAT scores? And the decision may be based primarily or solely on those types of numbers. Some schools, though, that are maybe smaller, take a more personalized approach. They may have fewer applications, and therefore they can devote more time to each applicant. They may consider an interview or an essay or recommendations to a greater extent. So again, different schools may view these different criteria a little bit differently. But let me talk about each of them and mention some of the key points about each one. So whether a school is large or small, consistently through the years, and this is not surprising, grades have been the number one most important factor in admissions decisions. Grades are the best predictor of future academic success, and grades certainly reveal a person's academic talent as well as work ethic, perseverance, and many other admirable qualities that are required to excel in school. Second, after grades, would be the strength of a student's courses. Whenever a student applies to a college, or I guess in most cases at least, the college will ask the student's counselor to evaluate the strength or rigor of the student's schedule. Has the student in his or her high school career taken the most demanding schedule or most demanding courses possible? Or has the schedule been not the most demanding, but very demanding, or just demanding, or maybe above average, or maybe average or even below average? So the colleges ask us as counselors to evaluate these courses. How strong is the student's schedule? And we have to report that information in the secondary school report that we submit when the student first applies. The third factor would be test scores. And again, test scores have been traditionally an important factor, though they have becoming less and less important as time has gone on. Obviously, COVID-19 is a horrible pandemic. However, one silver lining has been that because students have not been able to test, not take the SAT or the ACT, either at all or as often as they may wish to test, many or even most colleges now are making the SAT optional, at least as long as the pandemic is plaguing American society. Therefore, those candidates who test well may choose to submit their test scores and therefore enhance their application, while those students who are not good test takers may choose to not submit scores, and these students may be judged by the other criteria rather than by the test scores. Again, these other criteria will include the quality of the students' applications and essays, and this is one of the major reasons why we encourage the students to start so early in the process, not wait until a week before the deadline, but start in the summer, even in the spring before the senior year, and therefore give yourself as an applicant the most time to do a great job, to think about what you're saying in the essays, to get feedback from your friends, your family members, your counselor, your teachers. A lot of people can give you feedback and help you present yourself in the best possible way, and this process works the best, again, with an early start. As I mentioned, the interviews can be a part of the admission process, especially with smaller schools that have the ability to interview the candidates. The interviews may be conducted by either an admissions counselor or by an alumnus or alumna of the college. Those students who feel confident in their personal skills are very well served by interviews. And in my experience, the great majority of my students who've had interviews have benefited in that they can prove or show that they are more than just a bunch of numbers on a transcript. They're real people with outstanding personal qualities that come across in a personal interaction. Colleges want people that will contribute to college life by being more than just good students. Therefore, those students who have a record of contributing to the school's student government or sports teams or orchestra or drama club productions or whatever the case may be, whatever activities a student is involved in, whatever types of service the student may perform in high school, these are important factors because the college will know that the student is likely to be involved as a college student in more than just going to class. That student will be involved in student government in college, may play on a college's sports team, may be in the school's drama club productions, etc. So again, extracurricular activities and community service are especially valuable for those schools that do value involvement in campus life. We have spoken previously about the value of jobs, how jobs can demonstrate a student's sense of responsibility, work ethic, and level of maturity. To me, holding a job in the school year is especially impressive because a student must balance the often conflicting demands of work responsibilities as well as academic obligations. My next topic in the list of criteria would be recommendation letters. Again, recommendations may play a different role at different colleges. Some colleges, like Rutgers, for example, don't even want letters at all. Other colleges may require as many as 3. As counselors, we write letters for all of our students. We do that automatically. Students do not need to even ask us to do that. And we take pride, to be honest, in preparing the best letters we can on behalf of our counselees. We gather information from a wide variety of sources, from students themselves, from their resumes, from parents, from teachers. We compile this information and try to present a comprehensive and coherent picture of a student's many academic strengths and personal strengths, as well as extracurricular achievements. A student may also ask 1 or 2 teachers for letters to highlight a student's contributions to various courses. We recommend that a student ask a teacher for recommendation at the end of the current year, the end of the grade 11 year. The reason for that is, number one, a student is most likely to use a junior teacher who has had the student for a full year prior to applying. And number two, some teachers would prefer to do letters in the summer when they have more free time. So asking the teacher before the summer begins is a courtesy that the teacher may appreciate, and give the teacher a chance to decide when to do his or her letters, in the summer or in the fall. Again, not all letters are requested at the end of the grade 11 year, but in most cases, that would be the recommended scenario to ask the teachers at that time. In addition to the required letters, again, the number of required letters could range from 0 to 3. Sometimes students may choose to submit an additional letter. I would recommend no more than 1 additional letter. I think sometimes submitting too many letters can become annoying to a college. And I think if another letter is submitted, it should be submitted from someone that knows the student in an entirely different way. For example, suppose a certain person is the student's athletic coach, maybe club advisor, perhaps could be an employer, maybe a rabbi or minister. So someone that, again, has a different perspective on the student. This could be especially valuable, not someone that may just repeat the same kinds of comments that were given by a teacher or counselor in the school recommendations. Now, sometimes Haddonfield students have become frustrated because of the fact that HMHS is such a competitive school. Sometimes it's hard to stand out when you have so many talented kids that have so many abilities in so many areas. And in fact, because of the high level of academic performance of so many of our students, Haddonfield does not report class rank. We have found that reporting class rank has hurt our students because their rank would be, in most cases, higher at other high schools. So sometimes reporting a rank can be misleading and does not really signify the student's full academic potential. Again, though, we do not report class rank, but we have found that the level of competition within the school has actually been a good thing, in that colleges are aware that our students have been successful in the past and are likely to be successful in the future. Haddonfield students are likely to be on the dean's list. They're likely to graduate with honors. They're likely to be inducted into the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society that colleges may have on campus. They're likely to be successful in going to graduate school or to get good jobs after college. So really the competitive nature of our school, though it may seem at first glance to be a problem, is actually a benefit to our students, as the colleges know that our students are likely to be successful once admitted from Haddonfield. The next factor is somewhat controversial, in that factors that may not be related to a student's qualifications may play a role in college decisions. Colleges are looking for diversity, and by that I mean they want people from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, from different parts of the world, from different financial backgrounds, people that have different kinds of talents. So let's say, for example, 2 students are applying to the same college, student A and student B. The college happens to be in New Jersey. Student A lives in New Jersey. Student B lives in Idaho. Student A may have a higher GPA and better test scores, but the college may choose student B who lives in Idaho because the college is trying to achieve geographical diversity, and therefore they want students from different states, not just from New Jersey. Or suppose that student A and student B are both applying to a certain college, and student A's father went to that college, student B's father did not. Student B may have a higher GPA and higher test scores, but student A may be accepted because of the connection between the college and that student's father. If that father especially contributed money to the college, and if there's a building on campus named after the father, that would obviously make that student, the son of that alumnus, would have even a better chance to be accepted. Again, this may seem unfair that students who appear to have lesser academic credentials may not be accepted, and those students who may have, because of geography or religious or ethnic background or alumni connection, some students may get accepted for reasons that may seem in some people's eyes not completely fair. Finally, the last criteria I will mention would be for those students who have special talents in art or music or drama. Those students who are visually talented may need to submit a portfolio to demonstrate those talents, or those students who have excelled in music or drama may need to audition to demonstrate that talent as part of their application process. Next, I will talk about the collaboration among the student and counselor and teacher in the application process. Each of these parties has a role to play. If each party plays his or her role successfully, the outcome is successful for the student. So what is the role of the student in the application process? The student, in my view, has three main jobs. Number one, and most obviously, is to apply. The student is responsible for submitting his application along with any required essays that are part of the application. Certainly, a parent, a counselor, a teacher can help the student in preparation, but ultimately, it is the student's responsibility to submit the application that reflects himself or herself in the most positive way. The student is also responsible for submitting his or her test scores if the student does, in fact, submit scores. As I mentioned, not all colleges require scores. In fact, many are test optional now. So a student may or may not be submitting scores, but if the scores are submitted, it is the student's responsibility to do that. And how is that done? Two primary ways. Number one, the student may be required to go to the website of the testing company, that could be the College Board or the ACT, and log into his or her account and submit the scores directly from that website. Another approach to submitting scores would be to submit the scores as part of the application. Students may self-report the scores in some cases, and in that way fulfill their responsibility of submitting scores. The student's final major job in the application process is to be a good and clear communicator. Teachers need to know when that student's first deadline is so teachers can complete their letters by that deadline. Counselors need to know what schools the student's applying to and what deadlines the student is choosing to meet if a school does have more than one deadline. So students have to keep their counselors and teachers informed so everyone can perform his or her role in the process as effectively as possible. What kinds of documents do counselors submit to colleges? Basically, we submit forms or documents in 4 different categories. We submit a student's grades. The grades could be in the form of a transcript or a report card. We also submit those letters of recommendation that we work so hard to prepare for students before their senior year or during the senior year. We also submit for the student what's called a school profile. The school profile describes the town of Haddonfield, describes as well the students at HMHS, highlights the achievements of the students, both in academics, in athletics, and the arts. The profile demonstrates, in addition, how Haddonfield students have outperformed their peers around the country in standardized testing. So in addition to the grades, the recommendations, and the school profile, the final kinds of documents that counselors submit are various report forms. We submit the secondary school report form, the first quarter grades in some cases, the mid-year report, and the final report. These reports give the colleges information about the school and about the student that help the colleges evaluate accurately the achievements of that student. Finally, the teacher, again, the teacher's role is to write recommendations. Once the student informs the teacher about the deadline, the teacher is responsible for meeting the deadline and submitting his or her recommendation and any forms that may be required along with the recommendation. Obviously, when deadlines are such an important part of the process, staying organized is incredibly important to do as well. Different students have different approaches to organization. Some students may use Naviance to stay organized. Some students may rely upon Google Docs or spreadsheets. Some students may use good old-fashioned folders, but whatever type of organizational system that a student uses, keeping on top of deadlines, the importance of that just can't be overstated. A person who misses the deadline may miss a chance to be accepted or to be considered for a scholarship. In addition to adhering to deadlines, it's very important, and again, this may be obvious, to always review the information on a college's website. The information in the admissions section and financial aid section will detail the process of applying for admission or applying for aid. Students need to know what they must do to be considered, what documents must be submitted, and the deadlines for submitting these documents. And the websites of the colleges are the best way to find out this information. My final slide tonight deals with the topic of variety of colleges. And by this, I mean that traditional wisdom states that there are three basic categories of schools. One category might be called a reach or unpredictable category. Let's say, for example, that I have a 90 GPA and a 1200 on the SAT. If I'm applying to a school that typically accepts students with a 99 average and a 1400, my academic profile is not as strong as those other students. This school may be a reach for me academically. However, I may still apply to the school, perhaps because I've been involved in many activities, perhaps I've shown strong leadership, maybe I've held a job, maybe there are other things I've done that I think make me a competitive applicant. This still may be a reach school for me, but I still apply because I think I have some chance for the reasons that I have suggested. Suppose I have a 99 average myself and a 1400, which is the typical profile of accepted students at that school. Because the school accepts perhaps 5% of the applicants, even though I do match the typical profile of accepted students, because such a small number would be accepted, the school would be very hard to predict in terms of my admission outcome. The second category of schools is probably the largest category the students would apply to. This would be the category often referred to as the probable or good match schools. Again, take my example. I have a 90 GPA, a 1200 in the SAT. If the schools I'm applying to accept people that are in that same ballpark of a 90 GPA, a 1200, my chances of being accepted are good. These schools are a probable acceptance for me, especially if the schools accept maybe 50% or more of the applicants who apply. The third category, the foundation or safety schools, these are schools that I may seem overqualified for. Again, I'm a 90 GPA, 1200 SAT type of student, and say I'm applying to a school that accepts typically students with an 85 average or maybe 1,000 on the SAT. Because my profile is so much stronger, that school will not only likely accept me, but probably offer me a scholarship because I'm going to raise the level of that school academically and perhaps help to raise the school's rankings in those publications that do rankings, because my academic profile will improve the profile of the incoming freshman class. As Mr. Seaman mentioned in the first part of the presentation, the scattergrams and Naviance can help us understand and evaluate whether a school might be in Category 1, reach unpredictable, Category 2, probable good match, or Category 3, foundation or safety school. So that was my final slide, and it now gives me great pleasure to introduce the newest member of the counseling department, Mrs. Elizabeth Cranston, who came to us recently to replace Mrs. Carla O'Hara, who retired after 25 plus years in the Haddonfield Counseling Department. Even though Mrs. O'Hara was a great loss, we're very happy to have Mrs. Cranston as a member of our team, and we're confident that she will do a great job in servicing the members of the student population who had Mrs. O'Hara as their counselor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Cranston. I'm the new school counselor here at Haddonfield Memorial High School. I'm very happy to be here tonight. I've taken over the caseload of Ms. O'Hara after she has gone out on retirement. This year, I have something very much in common with you all. After 23 years as a school counselor, I also am a parent this year in the process. I also have a daughter who is a junior, and I'm learning a lot from the parent perspective in this entire process. One of the things we want to talk about tonight is connecting to and exploring colleges. In this COVID world, unfortunately, we have some limitations on being able to get on campus and being able to do our traditional tours. But don't despair. There's lots of unique and interesting creative ways colleges are going about getting information out to students, both in person and virtually. Right now, one of the best things to do is to get on the admissions pages of each of the schools that you're interested in and see what the offerings are. They're doing a lot of different things that students can register for at all different times, both during the day, on the weekend, in the evenings, things like information sessions, virtual campus tours, discussion groups and chats. Some schools are doing academic sessions and helping you have sort of like a mini open house within that particular program and what that program is all about. And some schools are even doing virtual interviews that are starting this spring for the junior class. A lot of colleges are also doing in-person traditional tours. Those tend to be in smaller groups now. Some are doing tours that are just on the outside of buildings. So again, get on the websites. You can register for tours. They will give you all the guidelines. And if you're comfortable doing that, that is a good way to go over the next couple months. Another thing to do is just to get in the car and take a drive and do a drive-through on a college campus. Again, any way we can connect the students to understanding what the school environment is, what kind of vibe they will be experiencing, just the interesting little things about the environment that they feel will help them to connect to the school and really understand, is this a school that I see myself at? Is this someplace that I can feel successful at? All the while we're looking at schools, we really want to make sure that the students are focusing on what is important to them, that they're looking for those hidden gems, little things that are going to make a difference, both for them academically as well as socially. Their tour guides give them a tremendous amount of information via current students that are being able to really help them understand what the environment is all about, what kinds of students are going there, what kind of experience that they potentially can have, and will help students decipher over, is this the right fit for me? Is this a school I can see myself growing in? So start touring anytime, whatever that looks like, whether it's virtually or in person. I think that now is the time to get out and find these ways to help your student explore the colleges and really help to make some determinations over the next several months. Is this the place for me? Is this a place that I can see myself, just being a successful student and community member? Financial aid will also be part of your process going into senior year. We will have a financial aid meeting in September. That meeting will sort of get things rolling and allow you to understand all the requirements of the financial aid process. The financial aid process will start with the filing of the FAFSA, which will open up on October 1st of senior year. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. The website is on the screen right now. And what this allows you to do is put in all of your financial information, and the government, based off of that information, will calculate something called the EFC. Expected family contribution. And what this essentially is the federal government telling you how much you can afford to pay for your child's education. And whatever that number is then sent to the colleges of your choice so that they can then determine a financial aid package for students. As an example, a real simplistic example, if a school costs $40,000 and your EFC is $20,000, that leaves a gap of $20,000. And that is what the colleges look to package in terms of financial aid. Some schools will package the entire $20,000. Some schools will fund only part of the $20,000. Every school is going to be different, even though your EFC will stay the same at every school. That package traditionally is based off of need-based aid. Okay, those are grants, loans, and work study experiences that the student will qualify based on financial information. The other part of financial aid could be merit-based financial aid, which is scholarships that students receive through their academic criteria. Most merit-based aid is reviewed automatically through the admissions process. So when a student receives a acceptance letter, oftentimes if they've qualified, a scholarship will be part of that so that you can see how that's going to configure in with the need-based money that is provided through the financial package that they provided. There are some schools that not only require the FAFSA, which all schools will require the FAFSA if you would like to apply for financial aid, but some schools also require the other form called the CSS profile. The CSS profile is a form that you will file through College Board. Not every college requires the CSS profile, and you only want to send it to the schools that do require it, as they will be looking for additional financial information to configure into the financial aid package. So again, that's a very basic broad strokes of financial aid. The meeting will be in September to give much more details and also some guidance on how to fill out the FAFSA. There is a recording from this past year's financial aid meeting. So if you want to get a little bit of a head start and understand the process in a little bit more detail, go to that recording and check that out. The last thing that Haddonfield High School does really well is provide a really unique opportunity for local scholarships. In January of senior year, a communication will go out indicating that there is a universal application for students to complete a number of steps in order to be eligible for local scholarships. One of the things that needs to happen for that universal application is that you have to apply for utilizing the FAFSA form to get your EFC. And that EFC is part of the application process for review for those local scholarships. More information will come for that in senior year, but just an understanding that there are many local scholarships available, and there is a process in senior year that will be communicated to everyone. As we wrap up tonight, we know there's a lot of information, a lot to take in, a lot to maneuver through, but we hope you will take lots of deep breaths through this process and enjoy it. Flexibility is a really important part of it, being supportive, really taking some time to have really good conversations with your sons and daughters. It can really be a really growth experience for you and for your son and daughter. I myself have done that. I have sprung a college conversation on many times at 7:30 at night and has not been received very well. So I've taken the tactic of scheduling in time so that I can have good, productive conversations that we can really get on the same page and understand where each other's coming from and what our hopes and goals are for helping each other through this process. everyone is an individual in this process. We as counselors really appreciate that. We want to meet students where they are and families where they are and providing our support and help. We are here to work as part of your team and making sure that we're working through all of everything that needs to happen in the process and everybody is feeling comfortable so that the students end up with that one school that they really feel is a great fit and will support everything that they want to do in their life. So it's a great journey. We hope that you will enjoy it. There are ups and downs for sure, but we hope that you all get a lot out of it as a family, and that you know that we're here to support you in any way we can through the entire process. We thank you for coming tonight, and we look forward to our continued work together.